What is up, misfits and moonbasers? Oh, that is out of focus. There we go. So, what is up, misfits and moonbasers? It's your boy Ray Recall coming at you again with another video review. And today, I want to take a look at a character, not one that I really have any special connection to, but something that's kind of a growing issue amongst the Transformers availability right now. All since the start of 2019, pretty much. Well, not since the start of 2019, but pretty close to it. Ever since this particular character was released, I have seen nothing but this character on the shelves. It has been a shelf warmer. It has been taking up all kinds of space, and I'm thinking, okay, usually a shelf warmer is either a character that people absolutely hate, or the figure is terrible. And the problem with this character is that, well, people don't really hate this character, but not enough people cared to actually just take it off the shelf out of, oh, this is this character. And the figure itself, on paper, isn't all that good. However, I wanted to see and put this to the test if it's really as bad as, people are thinking, or people might be thinking, and what's keeping this on the shelf. Because the problem with shelf warmers is that they take up inventory space that new figures aren't able to fit into. So if we have Wave 3 that is full of awesome figures, but the shelves are still full of Wave 1 figures, we're never going to see those Wave 3 figures unless we order online, through an online retailer, or do this or that, or jump through hoops that we really shouldn't have to do. So in an attempt to help the community, that's you guys, I just want to take a quick look at this character and see if this figure is worth picking up. So, without any further ado, I think that's the longest intro I've had on one of my videos. But without any further ado, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers War for Cybertron Siege Deluxe class Chromia. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get right down to it. Now, if you remember from one of my earlier reviews, I already have the Generations Thrilling 30 Chromia. So when I saw this on the shelf, I wasn't going to originally get it because I had this one. However, she doesn't really fit with the Siege figures, which is kind of what I'm trying to go for that collection right now. She works with her Thrilling 30 counterparts, the RC and the Windblade. Looks good in a group shot with that. It's kind of like Charlie's Angels or whatever. But this Chromia doesn't really fit in with the Siege line. It's way too small, the aesthetic isn't right. And so I'm thinking, okay, let's see what 5 years of Transformers engineering and design would make something better. So here's what we got. Now, I will point out that this is a heavy retool, remold, whatever you want to call it, of the Power of the Prime's Moonracer mold. And I will get into a few differences between those two, just scratching the surface. Don't want to get into too much until I do the review for, well, it'll come. Anyway, so to get started, we're going to go ahead and look at this. So this is Chromia's alt mode. It is a very Cybertronian type of car, and as you can see where the similarities are. Panels, robot mode chest, hands are there pretty much. Oops. Kind of see where the legs will go. The engineering is almost the same, but there's a lot of differences in it. So just take a look at it. Rolls pretty well. Scales pretty well with other deluxe class figures, modern mainline deluxes and whatnot, and it's pretty decent. Now the blue is a little bit more muted than the Generations version or the Thrilling 30 version, but I kind of dig it. It kind of fits with the war-torn aesthetic. She's seen some days. She's seen better days. Interestingly enough, the only bit of that Siege battle damage paint that I noticed was right up there on the front bumper. Looking around, I haven't really been able to see much of it, which makes me wonder why they even bothered with that. I mean, some figures they went all out, and some figures they didn't even give a flying flute. So, anyway. Moving on. Don't know why it didn't focus. It's pretty good. Vehicle mode rolls pretty well. Very narrow profile. Does come with quite a few accessories. So if you look in the back, there are these two boosters that are removable. And then the top gun is also removable, as well as this barrel attachment. And these things can be loaded up in all kinds of different loadouts, but we'll get into that when we get into robot mode. So there you go. And like I said, I just kind of want to gloss over this video just to see if it's worth it. So the vehicle mode holds together real tight. I mean, it doesn't feel loose or anything like that. These back panels are just a little bit fiddly, but that's kind of carried over from the Moon Racer mold. They had that similar problem. Can't really tell on this figure. There we go. But it's not bad. I've seen other figures that have much worse whatchamacallits, much worse much worse stability issues. But anyway, that's that. Now, one thing that this figure has that this figure doesn't have that this figure does is that it does not combine. So it doesn't have the huge combiner port back there, as you can see. Doesn't come with the prime armor. And the transformation, you know, if you can tell, you'll be able to tell more in robot mode, but the transformation, like for example here, there's a bunch of multiple hinges and stuff like that. There were a lot of design compromises that had to be made to be able to fit a leg and an arm mode into this, that they were able to reduce for this figure. So let's go ahead and get right into the transformation. First of all, what you want to do is to untab the arms just like that. Open up these panels like so. Now you'll also notice that the wheels are actually on the inside of these panels, unlike all the other members of the Moon Racer mold. So that is something that they changed. If I can just get this open, there we go. Another thing that they changed, extend the arms. They did make the forearm guards a little bit smaller, so they're less in the way. And since there's that combiner port, the whole chest flip up thing that happens with this transformation, again, I'll get more into that in that review, is negated. So all you have to do is really just come back here, flip this up. That panel covers the roof port. Fix the head, and just leave that there for now. Now coming to the bottom, you want to untab these sections here. They tab in right in there, and right down there. And then unpeg it. You see that there's a... Get into this in a second. You'll see that there's a port at the bottom of the foot that plugs into the peg, a little clear peg that's right there. Do that on the other side. And then one thing that they did with this version of the mold, oh yeah, rotate this around, is that the backpack, instead of just crumpling up on the back and taking up so much space, actually does condense down quite a bit. As you can see, there's ports and tabs on either side. Just want to get those lined up. There we go. Now it does jut out a bunch, but it is much more lightweight than the Moon Racer mold. This, real quick, just getting into this. This is a problem. She keeps losing her underwear. There's not really much else way to say it. I mean, it's just the panel that's just kind of soft tabs on there. As you can see, one moment. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, it's just soft tabbed on there. And the reason why they have that is so that whenever you rotate the hips, it doesn't allow for the sculpt to be broken. Okay. Going back to the legs, the finished transformation, you just want to pull those down, flip this up, pull the feet down. There you go. And then she's all transformed up. And here's Chromia in her robot mode. Now, a few things to take note from this that are different from the Building 30 version is that one, she is a lot more bulked out. So again, that does fit more with the Siege aesthetic where they're all basically just war machines instead of the more stylized, more IDW comic design for this one. Let's go ahead and get her out of the way real quick. Some further differences that you might want to take into consideration are also differences with the Moonracer mold. Now, as you can see, she is a bit shorter, but her body actually... Let me see. Come on. Stand, because it's normal. See, that's the problem with this one. The backpack is like dragging it down. So, if you notice, the torso sculpts on this, I'm not sure how well it comes out. For Moonracer, it's just kind of sculpted on there, but there's still that huge block on the back. So it just kind of has a ton of kibble on that. This one, the entire body is the block, or it is the body. So, you know, it seems a bit more cohesive. The feet also are actual feet instead of having the alt mode front on them. They are able to take the side panels and actually put them away instead of having them just being jutting out there in the front. Yeah, they jut out in the back. Well, it's better than them jutting out in the front because, you know, at least they kind of do something with that. It doesn't look as jarring. As I mentioned before, the forearm guards, well, maybe they're not as reduced, but they do look a little bit more reduced. It seems more cohesive. And the backpack, as you can see, this is like basically a solid chunk. This one is nothing but a flat panel. So it does reduce the weight. It also has, for the Moonracer mold, the center of gravity is much lower and back. This one is higher and more centered. So they were able to fix a lot of problems with Moonracer that, they were able to fix a lot of problems that the Moonracer mold had. So that is good. Now articulation. Head is on a very good ball joint. You can do a full 360. Look up that far, about down that far. Shoulders are on a swivel. They can go full out. They can only go out about this far, but that's okay. Bicep rotation, about 90 degrees bend at the elbow. Some inward wrist movement, but that's more for transformation. Hips are limited in their rotation because of the underwear plate, or whatever you want to call it. One thing that Moonracer had is that she had the fully rotating waist, but because of the sculpt, it looked a little bit weird that she was rotating beneath her waist. So I guess they've put that in place to fix that or whatever. I don't know. Thigh rotation. Now, interestingly enough, they use the same thigh pieces, because you notice they have the blocks in the back, but the thing is, these have the squares in the back because these shin parts would go up and tab in for the shin mode, for the combine. They just reused the parts on that, so it's pretty neat. They didn't have to, they were able to reuse the parts, and it still looks fine. Thigh rotation, legs can go only forward about that much, back that much. Pretty decent splits. The thing about this is that here we go again. Here we go. Nope. Technical difficulties. Wardrobe malfunction. Oh boy. That panel popping off, I would have to say, is the biggest pain of this figure. Honestly, it doesn't even pop off that much. I mean, it's only whenever the camera's on. Okay. Anyway. Now, a good thing about these moving out of place is, as you can see, it's kind of originally, like, the default is not that deep of a knee bend, but you can move these panels out of the way to get a much deeper, closer to 90-degree knee bend. So it looks much more natural. The ankles are on a huge rocker in both directions, and you have an ankle tilt that is very good, as you can see. So you do get a lot of posing options out of this figure that you wouldn't be able to because of this one, just because the kibble gets in the way. So for size comparison, here she is with another Deluxe Mirage. As you can see, she is a bit more reduced in size compared, but you know what, female proportions compared to male proportions, so whatever. Here she is with a Voyager, that animation cel-shaded Optimus. And here she is with a Leader class figure. So, and I think I'm just going to stop comparing everybody to Jetfire. So, as far as accessories go, she does have her blaster, standard blaster. She has this component, and then she has these. Now, these have multiple. One good thing about Chromia is that she has a plethora of functions. Like, you can plug these into the sides here. If I can line that up right, just from looking through the camera. There you go. You can just plug those in there. Looks good. These can be individually used as EMP grenades. I think that's what they're called in the instructions. I don't have the instructions anymore, so forgive me. So that's cool. The gun, you can either have this as a scope attachment or a silencer, which is pretty neat. You can plug these together to have her kind of have a electro stun staff. And the cool thing is that these are actually able to link together not just this way, but also this way. So if you really wanted, you could build up a super weapon. Or if you don't like that look, there you go. You have a ton of options with the accessories, is what I'm saying. And of course she is a siege figure, so she's got siege ports. She's got one here, 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 all over the place. So, yep. And that'll pretty much about do it for Chromia. Now, the plus side is that, she's a very good figure. She has very nice joint tolerances. I didn't have to really do any tweaking or anything like that. She's got a bit of kibble, but considering the improvements over the Moon Racer figure, and I didn't have a problem with the Moon Racer figure. I didn't realize that this was even issues until this figure, so. Given that perspective, I mean, she is an improvement. The only really problem like I said earlier, the only real problem I have is that this panel right there, as inconvenient as that might be, keeps popping off, but that's only if you are kind of ham-fisted and don't really know how to treat a lady, or insert joke here or whatever. But honestly, compared to some other figures that I've had that have had worse or similar or worse issues, I can manage. So, would I recommend getting this figure? Yes, I would. For a Siege fan, definitely. She fits in right at home with all the other Siege figures. I have her displayed prominently at the front of my Siege shelf. Would you get this if you were a G1 fan? I personally would say yes, because, G1, she was basically, Ironhide's girlfriend or some shit like that. I don't know. But, yeah, I would say that for a G1 fan. For a Transformer collector that already has a Chromia, would you get this? I would say that would depend on your personal taste and aesthetic. Now, I personally prefer the IDW version. I prefer the more comic book accurate version. I like the transformation. I like the space motorcycle version. However, if, you know, knowing what I know about this figure now and say that, or if I had to choose between the two, this is not a bad figure. It's not a bad figure, and yeah, I'd recommend that you get it. So if you see this on the shelf and you don't already have the Chromia, go ahead, pick it up. If you're trying to build up your Siege army, go ahead, pick it up. If you have Ironhide and you want a girlfriend for Ironhide, pick it up. Yeah, that's about as much as I can say for that. So anyway, I guess that'll pretty much about do it. I guess that'll do it. So this has been the Transformers Siege, or War for Cybertron Siege Deluxe Class Chromia review. I have been Ray Recall. Y'all have been awesome. And I will see y'all again in the next review, which should be up in a few days at the start of the week, I think. Or near the end of the week. Depends on when you want to call the start or end of the week. Anyway, the next review will be up pretty soon. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.